Welcome. Thank you all for coming to the EBA for the Hairstylist Australia EBA. My name is Lane League. I am representing the Hairstylist Australian Union. I'd like to pass it around the room and get everyone's point of view and where they're coming from. Miss Presley, seeing that this is about your company, would you like to start us off?
Yes, so I'm Presley Pantene and I am the owner and also a manager of the company. And pass on to anyone else who would like to take over.
Hi, I'm Casey Capital. For the past 5 years, I've worked for the Victorian Chamber of Commerce. My role is to support and assist employees across Victoria and Australia. Employment relations is my area of expertise.
I'm Galen Glamour. I've been an employee at the George Street Salon in Sydney for around 18 months now.
Amazing. And I didn't mention before, I'll be taking minutes on behalf of the company tonight, and all things that we compromise on, and all things that we agree on, and things that we may not. We'd like to start today off by talking about hours worked and overtime and penalty rates. Now, Miss Pantene, sorry, would you like to start us off in giving your point of view and what you were looking at in regards to this?
Yes, thank you. So this has been my company that I have built up. Now, what has come to me is that we want to open our stores from 5 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. Now, with that, in relation to benefits and profits with that sort of thing, from a business owner point of view, opening at those times allows for penalty rates from 5 to 7 a.m. And for us, there would just be no profit allowing 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. with penalty rates as per a normal penalty rate. So we've outweighed the benefits, and there's no profit for us to make keeping it at a normal steady penalty rate as it would be for any other overtime.
Yeah. Well, if I may, I've also got in my notes as well that quite a few employees can see the benefit in opening up at 5 a.m. They say that with that, there'll be an increase in people coming through the doors and hopefully taking advantage of what you offer at the business. With that, we have also had a look at the current award system, in which case between 5 and 7, you would be getting, the employees themselves would be getting time and a half. Now, 5 and 7 is 2 hours. And on behalf of obviously employees that I've spoken to, if you're thinking about time and a half for 2 hours, you're actually paying for only 1 hour of work extra per employee that you're having through that point. However, and at the same time, it might be a really good thing to do to give it a go and open the doors at 5 a.m. because if you do get 5, 6, 7, 8 customers through that door, I'm almost certain that it will take advantage of the time and a half that you will have to pay. I'll happily pass it around. Galen, would you like to pass through?
Yeah, so there has been a rumour among the employees that Presley, you are considering an employee ownership program to replace penalty rates. From an employee point of view, I would like to see both an employee ownership program and penalty rates for earlier hours. As Lane said in the award, ordinary working hours are considered to start at 7 a.m. and there needs to be some sort of financial incentive or reward for us employees who have to start at such an early hour.
Does anybody have anything else to say before I jump in on this one?
Well, I think Casey might want to just jump in as well.
Yeah, okay, so basically I believe there must be changes made in technology and lifestyle in order to eliminate high penalty rates. I understand you guys are having some issues with the award. I'm here to give my input and recommendations. So I want to recommend 2 options for you guys. Deal 1, basically cut penalty rates to time and a half for weekdays and weekends and increase the hourly rate of all employees by $1.30 per hour. And deal 2 would be employee ownership scheme, transferring ownership of 5% of the company to employees over the next 3 years. What do you guys think of those?
So that was where I was going to jump in, and well, with the extra money per hour, like we would be happy to account for the starting earlier and maybe cutting the penalty rates a bit lower, but offering employees $1.30 extra per hour, and yeah, having that rate of still time and a half on weekdays and weekends, but just increasing that employee rate to $1.30 extra an hour. And yeah, we've also discussed the employee ownership scheme as well. I think the employees would have a better understanding of a business point of view if they did have an ownership into the company and understand where we're coming from when we are discussing penalty rates and how it could affect the company by opening up that extra 2 hours a bit earlier. Because we might have days where we're not as busy, and also we have to take into account one of our next topics, which would be the breaks that we're discussing. Those extra 2 hours, are we going to be giving more breaks for those people as well? And it's just a thing.
Well, I think also, I think it might be an opportunity to try doing this with the time and a half with your current employees, because at the end of the day, if by any chance it booms, and as many employees have mentioned to me, that they believe that there will be quite a few people willing to take advantage of the earlier hours. If that is so, then you will be making profit regardless of paying the penalty rates of a time and a half. It's actually not like, obviously Sundays is even more than that, but time and a half isn't that unreasonable for an employee to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, really, to get to work by 5. Galen, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely think that the penalty rates should be applied, and you've also got to think about it from, somewhat of an occupational health and safety standpoint. If we're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start work at 5, we could be driving tired and working, with hot equipment tired. So I think that there needs to be some sort of financial reward for that.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
I think what you were saying, Lane, are just about maybe it could be a trial and error thing. Mm-hmm. We could maybe get some statistics on each of our stores that are opening. We could all try and open at that time and trial and error and see how many customers we are having come in at those times. And then we could just come back and we could
probably revisit this with a little bit more details.
Yeah, and just sort of look at those statistics. Are more stores getting more clients in between the 5 and the 7? And who are those stores? And how many more are they? And is it working for all the stores? Are we getting them in every store? Are we getting 8 to 10 clients between those 2 hours? And if not, then maybe looking at having only those few stores that say are having those more clients come in. And for our Melbourne stores, where we have some more areas in the city, if one of them's getting more and it's close by to another one, maybe having one open normal at 7 and then have one opening at 5, and maybe push those clients from that store to go to that one as well.
So before we move on from this, can we get your word in saying that you'll trial this with time and a half, and it is for the stores that actually are worth it? So the stores that will be busy, potentially you will be able to keep that going. And if it doesn't work out with some stores, you obviously don't have the desire to open up earlier. Do we have your word on that list?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, guys. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is taking breaks in the venues as per how many hours the people work themselves. I believe we have Galen to start.
Yeah.
If you could let us go.
I'd like to see a 10-minute paid rest break after each client. And as the owner of the company, Presley, I believe that you do have a responsibility to us employees to create a safe working environment, and this shouldn't be undermined by any associated costs. So obviously hairdressing is a very physically tiring activity on the arms, and many employees have complained of aches and pains in the arms. And the Hair and Beauty Award that we're currently under states that all full-time employees should be granted at least 2 paid rest breaks for 10 minutes, one on either side of the meal break. And obviously this is the bare minimum. And I feel like, we should get one after each client.
Okay, thank you for your input, Galen. Now, obviously, I am not a hairdresser myself. I did a Bachelor of Business at La Trobe, so I don't know the physical demand that it has on you guys. But from my point of view, what I can offer, so obviously keeping those 2 breaks on either side of your lunch breaks is what the award says now. I'm happy to bargain on potentially giving an extra 10-minute break after a client that has been physically demanding. Now, if they've got long hair, we're happy to offer that 10-minute break. But if a client has short hair, we just don't see where it would be that physical demand on you, because you might be spending, obviously shorter time on that client than you would be with someone with long hair. So if a client does have long hair, we are happy to offer that 10-minute break after the client.
Just to confirm.
Good. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, Galen, before you.
Just to confirm, we would need to come to a mutual agreement on the definition of long hair, but no, that does sound good.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We'd have to sort of maybe, again, a sort of a trial and error sort of thing, maybe getting an input from each employee on the physical demands from each client, and outweighing what long hair is. Obviously, someone's got shoulder length hair, we're not going to say they've got long hair.
With this as well, can I just mention, you obviously mentioned the break, which is totally appropriate. I'd like to confirm over here with you as well whether these are going to be paid breaks, because the fact that they're working for you, these employees, and they're obviously tiring, I believe that these should be paid breaks, so that there shouldn't be no financial no money taken away from them in their pocket at the end of the week because of the issues having to work for you.
Yes, no, I agree. These will be paid breaks of 10 minutes after, once again, a physical client that puts a strain on one of our employees.
So I am aware that several employees of the salon have lodged a work cover claim due to the repetitive strain injuries caused by the continuous blow waves. The current provision around breaks in the hair and beauty industry award are inadequate. Long hair is causing these injuries. Having these extra 10-minute breaks between each customer with the long hair will reduce the siding wrist, the elbows, and the shoulder pain. So I am in favour of these 10-minute breaks. So what exactly do you classify as the long hair? Shoulder length, the shoulders, whereabouts would you say long hair is essential for a 10-minute break?
Personally, from obviously myself performing the work, I would say anything below the shoulders would be definitely long hair.
Can I also have ask a question as well? Let's say you have 3 clients within an hour, all of which have short hair. Obviously, I don't work in a salon, so I don't really know, but irrespective of their hair length, that is still a profession where you will still tire from the 3 clients within the hour without any break whatsoever. I've also spoken to, I understand that the 10-minute breaks are great. I've also spoken to a few other people who are actually considering 10 to 15-minute breaks after each client. Would that be something you could consider? So irrespective of hair length.
not asked the client. It would just put I believe, a financial burden on our salons. It just wouldn't be very, very productive for
So
to
can I
happen
ask,
each client.
so then can I ask, do you value money over your employees more?
No, not at all. I'm just saying we do still like to be productive, and it just would be long hair, as Casey said, is what is causing these issues. So we want to try and eliminate those issues. Now, we are happy to look at our employees that have done, as you said, maybe three clients in a row that have short hair. You know, that could actually equal up to one client with long hair. So we're happy to offer that 10-minute break after those. And it just has to sort of as well look at a person by person and what their workload is like, and you know, potentially even making that as fair as possible along all the employees and giving them the same workload as you can. Obviously, each person that comes into the salon is going to be a little bit different, but not everybody has long hair, not everybody has short hair. And if we are going to agree on a length, and we could even then agree on, if we have 3 clients in a row that have, you know, above shoulder length hair, we're happy to offer a 10-minute break for those those employees as well. And it's definitely not that we value money over our employees, because that's not the situation at all. But, you know, we still are a workplace, and we still do have to be productive as well. And we're always here to listen to what everybody has to say and their opinions. And again, once again, like making it a trial and error thing and seeing how things are going and seeing what each employee sort of has to say and getting their feedback from it as well.
Great. So with that, I guess we'll take away that with every person who comes into the venue with long hair, there is a 10 to 15-minute break. I'm assuming also still paid, that employee will receive.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
also adding on to that, Lane. Yeah, I'm happy to put in the bargain as well that, you know, just looking at the clients that our employees are having, and if they were to have, as I said, those 3 clients with short hair, you know, it's going to equal up to someone with long hair, and it is going to have physical strain on the employee, and we don't want that to happen. So, and
Right.
it also has to look at a manager position. So your manager as well, if you go to your manager and say, you know, I've had 3 clients with short hair, and my other employees had 1 client with long hair, and they're getting a break, and I'm not, speaking to your manager about that, your salon manager, and, you know, asking for that 10-minute break because you believe that you deserve it.
Great.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So we are going to be moving on again. Now, another big issue. Sorry, another thing to mention is the first aid allowance. Now, obviously, people are looking for qualifications, and it's always beneficial for employees to have qualifications in first aid, regardless of their, you know, where they are within the hierarchy of the business, because you never know what will happen within a workplace. Casey, maybe this would be a great time for you to take this and start us off.
Yeah, so basically I agree that the first aid requirement is added as a requirement to work at the salon. I believe the salary allowance should be lowered to 1.3% as it is sufficient. Yeah.
Okay,
So
do you have anything to, sorry Lane, jumping in, anything
go for it.
coming from an employee stand?
Yeah, I'd like to see a 4% salary allowance under the new agreement for first aid training. Doing first aid is obviously a highly stressful, you know, responsibility in a really serious situation, and I just don't feel like it's overly valued by this company, and it's reflected by the current allowance of 1.3% for something that can quite literally be life or death. So yeah, I'd like to see a 4% allowance.
I'll take over as well. I tend to absolutely agree with Galen. I think that you can't really put a price on life or death. And actually, I believe that 1.3 is insufficient. I'm looking at anywhere between 2 to 3% increase, if that would be anything I can go maybe as lowest to about 2%. But I believe there needs to be an increase.
Yes, no, we definitely agree as well. It is quite a significant ask, obviously, from our employees to be able to take on those situations, as it would be for anybody. We are happy to increase that to a 2% add-on. It would just, yeah, sorry.
No, I think I can settle at a 2% allowance as long as there's some sort of increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, so can I. Amazing.
Awesome.
Casey, do you have anything to add to this one?
2% sounds good to me,
2%.
as long as we agree to it.
Perfect. Alrighty, guys. Moving right along again. Termination. Obviously, it's a really big one within all industries about obviously terminating employees and obviously time periods that you give them in between letting them know that their job is terminated to when they physically have no job at the venue. At this point, I would just go back to the award. And in the award, it does state there is time limits within this scenario. And I believe this shouldn't change. And this needs to stay the exact same within the EBA that we're going to create, where that less than 1 year, 1 week, more than a year, between 2 and 3 is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc. 4 weeks after that. I believe it's the award. If anything should go up from that. Would, by any chance, Presley, would you like to take us over?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Lane. What we want to propose is being able to terminate on the spot to an employee that has had less than a year's experience. We're happy to leave the remaining periods of notice to the employees with more than 1 year at what they are. We do have a reputation of this business, and it is quite high, and we value that, obviously. Now, if somebody is not performing up to those standards, and they have been at the company less than a year, and they do jeopardise our reputation, we believe we should have the right to terminate on the spot. However, we do realise that could put a burden on the employee that has been terminated on the spot. So obviously with, job searching, it is quite hard these days. We are happy to, extend the period to a 2-day notice and, offer that person to be able to find a job and start looking with the 2-day notice.
Sorry, I will quickly jump in. Sorry, Casey. I think also it might be a really good point to consider the better off overall test within this one. You're literally taking away something from the award. When you increase from into an EBA, you need to be at least the same as the award. It can never be less. In which case, you are giving people 2 days as opposed to a week within the award system. And if you go to any other job, you don't get fired on the spot without some sort of warning system as well. Yep. I think that would be something to consider, but I think it would be almost impossible to say that you can fire someone on the spot without an explanation.
Yes. No, I agree. Obviously there should be an explanation, and we're not going to fire someone on the spot just because we want to. As I did say, we do have a reputation to uphold, and if we have been seeing this person not performing, we believe we should be able to at least give them a 2-day notice of termination. Not saying that somebody makes a mistake for the first time and we're going to fire them. That's not what we're going to do. That is not practical at all. That would open up a lot of lawsuits. Potentially putting in performance management firstly for that employee, but sort of like a strike system if the employee is, maybe being on probation, being less than 1 year with the company, and having performance management. And if that person isn't just performing to those standards, just being able to have the option to being able to fire on the spot. And firing on the spot isn't saying we you know, that we are just unhappy with something, that one person, maybe one action. That's not what it is at all. It would be obviously an overall thing about what that person has done, their actions, and looking at why. There's always got to be a why to something that we're going to do. Just because maybe someone's done something wrong for the first time, depends what that is as well. You know, if it's something significant, looking at that situation. Everything is situation by situation. Not every person is the same. Not every situation is the same. So that's just what I have to add to that.
Exactly right. I am concerned that this may fail the boot unless some compensation is offered. I recommend extending the provision to 2 days for employees with less than 1 year's service.
Well, I think that all employees, irrespective of how long they've been at the company for, are entitled to a period of notice of at least a week. And as Lane said before, this is highlighted in the current award, and taking it out, it would just, you know, be a disadvantage to the employees. But I would consider 2 days paid job search leave. But I think that this should also be in addition to, you know, a week's notice.
I think with this one specifically, guys, I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion today on this one. I think we all have very strong views on worth of employee worth, and being on probation for a year seems like a bit of a stretch in today's climate. When you, even as a casual, I used to work at a bar when I was 18. You have a 3-month probation period.
Yeah.
You don't have a year as a probation for a full-time employee.
Yeah, that wasn't saying that's something that we're definitely going to do. It maybe not more technically probation, but more just looking at the individual themselves that, you know, we are considering terminating, and before terminating them on the spot, allowing for some sort of performance management to happen with that. So maybe we could agree on maybe setting in place a performance management instead of terminating right on the spot, to just sort of as a warning system, to just, you know, see how the employee can better themselves, and how we can help them strive to do better, and, you know, uphold the reputation that we do have as a business across all our salons. You know, I have built this company up for quite some time now, and I do have quite a lot of salons. So it's not my first rodeo. I just don't think a person with less than a year is just not, who isn't upholding what we believe are our values or the standards that we set for our work. I just believe even setting in some type of performance management for that employee, once again, situation by situation sort of thing as well.
Great. So we'll take that into account, which was the performance management system that we'll add into this. But just to clarify, we haven't come to a conclusion on this one. Great. Finally, we have consultation about changes to roster and hours of work. Sorry. Galen, would you mind starting us off with this one?
Yeah, so obviously as an employee, this one does directly affect me. So there needs to be a concise definition of the term emergency in order to change the roster. So an emergency could be when a colleague has a car accident and can't attend work for the next 48 hours. But an emergency wouldn't be something such as a colleague taking time off to care for a persistently ill child. And emergencies should be extended to humans only. So emergencies for pets is not a valid reason to change the roster. And I also believe that any changes to the roster should be written, and this can be with electronic messaging, but just not verbal, just so there is proof, and the message obviously has to be kept correctly in order to prove the change.
I tend to completely agree with those ones. I think it has to be clearly defined what an emergency is. In terms of giving notice, I mean, also in terms of the award system, there is a 48-hour notice period for the employer to the employee, which I think needs to be kept. And as Galen said, I believe some sort of written formality in terms of whether it's text to your manager, something that can be backtracked and trailed and visually seen.
Yeah.
I think just a chat isn't quite the same.
I agree. Even if it is a phone call that takes place, as a manager point of view, asking that employee or for us to either email the employee or SMS the employee and, get confirmation that they are happy to step in and change their roster, or for someone who wants to change their roster to, after that conversation, obviously conversations on the phone are a little bit better than an SMS or an email. Sometimes things can be taken in the wrong way when messaging like that. So even if it is a phone call first and a follow-up of a message.
The phone call I do agree with, but I feel like after the phone call there should be a message sent saying confirming what we spoke about.
Exactly. We're totally agreeing on that same point. An SMS or an email agreeing on the conversation, putting some points in that were discussed. So just sort of like this conversation now, how things are getting taken down, taking down things about those in the conversations. I think we do as well need to agree on an emergencies list. With the human thing, I do agree, though, it is a bit sad to think, like, I guess as well, like, coming from a personal view, like if an employee, obviously everybody has different relationships with everyone. I feel like, Galen, if your pet was to pass away, you would feel like you need the time off. But I can see where we need to set an emergent, like what does define an emergency. And I feel like it can extend out to your family members, obviously. I agree on the persistence of an ill child. I feel they would have to give us some notice and maybe take some of their leave. And, we could potentially look at changing the roster, for a permanence of a certain amount of weeks on the agreements of other employees who would, and I'm sure each employee would like to help out their colleagues as well in situations like that. So having those conversations with other employees and seeing who's happy to step up and change their roster. And it would be, once again, a written confirmation sort of thing of how long it would be and reassessing after that time and seeing where the other employee is at to see whether or not we're happy to look at extending or seeing what else we could sort of do about it.
Exactly right. I believe that an emergency should be defined as something unexpected and sudden for immediate action. An emergency should be limited to the employee or the dependents, including their animals. Everyone classifies family as whatever they want, but the animals are in the household, so they are a member. Agreeing also the verbal agreements to roster changes should be confirmed in writing. It's more formal, it's proof. These days electronic messaging is what people are using more, but yeah, totally agree that you need a visible proof so you could look back on it.
Great. So in that case, guys, are we confirming with this one? So written formalities for all roster changes, even if it has been through a phone call, we then follow up with the written formality, as well as keeping, obviously, the award system that is already in place.
Exactly right.
Great. Guys, that takes us to the end. I'll quickly conclude so everyone is aware of all the things that we've discussed today. In terms of hours worked, time and a half will be tested through venues, and then from there it'll be evaluated if it is necessary and financially applicable to keep on. As for taking breaks, we're doing when people come in with long hair, there will absolutely be a 10-15 minute break after that, as well as looking at if there's 3 shorter hair clients, you're still Australian, so there will be a break with that as well. First aid, we're increasing to 2%. As for termination, there'll be further discussion on this one. I think we haven't quite come to a conclusion at all. but performance management system of some sort will come into hand at some point in the future about this. Consultation about changes of roster, as we just mentioned, keeping the award system and written formalities as per a phone call and following up with some sort of email or written piece of evidence. Is that cool with everybody? Does everyone agree?
Sounds good.
Yes. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you all for coming to our very first meeting. We hope to follow up. If this date is still available in 1 month's time, guys, let's set a follow-up meeting to just further discuss next issues as well as termination.
Yeah.
Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.